About a month after leaving prison fellowship, I landed a great job with an organization by the name of St. Coletta's. This organization earned its place in the book because it was a real blessing during a time of intense struggle. St. Coletta was a non-profit organization which provided educational and vocational training for the mentally and physically disabled. They provided clients with small, mediocre tasks such as putting labels on bottles for soda companies or putting together care packages for hotels or businesses. The jobs were all simple and provided a small source of income to help strengthen the client's focus and sense of well-being. For me, this job was definitely a joyful escape from the mayhem of the so-called normal people in my life. Perhaps it could have been my 6'2", 230-pound frame, or maybe it was because I was blessed that landed me the job of working with the special needs and more aggressive clients. I really love those guys. I had a group of 12 clients, 2 females and 10 males, ranging from the ages of 19 to 30. Most of them had childlike mentalities. 2 of my clients were even in wheelchairs. But when I tell you these guys could get pretty aggressive sometimes, you have no idea. Often they would have rough nights at home, so the next morning they would come in through the doors somewhat agitated. Some days it didn't take much to set things off. It was literally like fireworks. When one got upset, it triggered everybody. My main job with the clients was to help direct their focus and keep them in control as much as possible. Sometimes I would have to do slight takedown maneuvers to subdue them when they became overly agitated or threatening. That is why I worked extremely hard to instill peace and joy in my class, so that those tactics wouldn't be necessary. Sad to say, but for individuals who have dealt with a lifetime of mental and emotional congestion, peace and joy aren't always so easily digested. It takes time. St. Coletta's also helped me to see that it takes a considerable amount of love and the earning of individual trust to help nurture damaged flowers. Thankfully, I was successful in these areas. Whether it was my clients at work or the gangbangers in the neighborhood, my spiritual walk demanded that I see God's children. It was almost as if I had no choice. I knew in my heart that I wasn't going to be excused by simply saying these were God's children. I actually had to attempt to see through the behavior and the acts being committed to recognize the hidden spiritual essence of each individual who stood before me. Can you even begin to imagine the load of consciously trying to lift every man up in his spiritual identity before God? Can you imagine the amount of discipline it took to keep the mind from trying to constantly judge? I can tell you now, it took a lot of prayer, strength, grace, and forgiveness. During the days of St. Coletta's, I was bearing a maximum load. On one hand, I was dealing with the gangbangers who were becoming the neighborhood terrorists, while on the other hand, trying to reach those who many deemed as unreachable due to their mental condition. Talk about spiritual endurance. There was definitely no rest for me during those days, because each day demanded the same amount of commitment. This is how I know it was not through my own strength that I was able to labor and serve each day, but purely through God's grace. Seriously, the fact of the matter is, if you're going to live spiritually, it becomes essential that you're willing to try to lift up every individual consciously. You have to be willing to try to see past the mask, the persona, and the facade that are before you. You have to be willing to get past all your fears and your judgments. You have to consciously look within your heart and see God's children who dwell behind the appearance. Yeah, it sounds crazy, but this is what real spiritual awareness is all about. Spiritual awareness is about knowing the deeper, true life of every individual. It's about getting past your own mind to see every individual according to who they really are. Of course this is tough, but that's the true mission. I can even remember one particular kid at St. Coletta's who helped me to see just how tough it actually is to look past people and their actions. This kid's name was Billy. He was about 18 years old. He was a scrawny little white kid, but truly held the title of class bully. He could literally get everyone in class worked up just by walking in the room. I believe many of his challenges came through early emotional abuse in his home environment. He carried within himself a lot of pain and anger. Weekly, I would have to take him down to keep him from lashing out at the other clients. Initially, his anger was directed at them, nothing too serious, but later down the road, it all became directed towards me. Everyone could see that my group was no longer as out of control as they once were. They were all starting to calm down. This really agitated Billy. He couldn't seem to get the same response from the guys he had once gotten. I believe deep down he knew I was the cause of their new attitude. So every few days, he would wage his bi-weekly war against me. Although he cursed and broke one of my necklaces and even ripped numerous shirts, oddly enough, I still like this kid. As mentioned earlier, I clearly understand some kids are a perfect product of their environment, and Billy was no exception. I was truly blessed to be there for Billy and the rest of the group. I remained at St. Coletta's until 2002, which was approximately 3 years, until I became severely ill. I always thought I would one day return, but I never did. Nevertheless, my heart to this day still remains there with those kids. I would like to leave you with this closing thought. Both the gangbangers and my clients at St. Coletta's forced me to prove that I was not all talk. In cases such as these, you are forced to go beyond just talking the talk to actually having to walk the walk. Often, we say a lot of things about God and the spiritual life, but we fail to realize that at some point, it has to be proven. If you ask me, I received a double dose of the best spiritual training possible from these situations. In both cases, I was motivated but challenged to try to reach the unreachable, while at the same time attempting to love those who many deemed as unlovable. To my clients of St. Coletta's, I love you and I thank you, for you were some of the greatest spiritual teachers during a tough time. On many days, those who observed us thought I was teaching you. Little did they know, on many days, you guys were actually teaching me.